everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video I want to go over a few different comments that I thought were pretty good and made me think of a few things. It taught me a few things. Most of them are comments on the video that I just did today called Big Change to the Salt Lake Temple and More Arches Found. So we are going to be talking about a number of different things. We're going to revisit that video a little bit and talk about the roof of the Salt Lake Temple. We're going to talk about the church symbol. We're going to talk about Rome, because it turns out Rome, I think that there's Roman influence with different things, both architecture and other things in the church, which maybe you hadn't thought about before. So I'm gonna just hang on. It's going to be a lot of good stuff. Okay, so first, I want to share this comment. Of course, I can't substantiate this, but this is an interesting thought. This is from Nate Smith. He says, "Thank you for this video. I wanted to say my father is one of the head artists who works with the church. He has done the murals for temples, did most of the art for the temple films, and a bunch of other stuff. He has heard the Angel Moroni will not be coming back." So he's talking about the, well, I don't know if he's talking about this in general, or just the Salt Lake Temple. Instead, they're doing the Savior atop the temples from now on. We shall see, of course, but I found it very interesting. Yeah, now it's not that I don't trust you, Nate, but I just barely learned today that you even exist, so I'll just have to, take that under consideration. Yeah, I guess we'll just see if it does happen. If it does happen, oh my gosh, that would be fascinating. Could you imagine if, they, instead of the Angel Moroni, they did the Christus on every temple in that place? But yeah, we'll just have to see. But that would be cool if that happens. Thanks for commenting. Okay, and now we have from G. Think of the new church logo. It has the Savior inside an arch. These are not coincidental designs. Yeah, I know. I don't know if you're new to the channel. I try and repeat myself as much as possible because I'm always getting new subscribers. We actually just passed the 2,000 mark. I've done videos. I'm going to refer to a couple of them in this video where we've talked about arches. We've talked about arches at length, and we've also talked about the church symbol. And we're going to be doing some talking about the church symbol right now. But yes, I do believe that you're right, G. Okay. Mud floods. I'm not going to read this whole comment. Yes, I've heard of the mud floods theory. I don't really know what I think of it, but I don't buy that the Salt Lake Temple was built by Tartarians. So let's just put it that way. Let's see. Stuart Boyer, ground references are an important part of VFR flying. Now, this is something I've never said on the channel, but, well, I don't think maybe I did. I originally went to school. First, I was going for accounting, and then I switched over to aircraft dispatch. It's not the same thing as air traffic control. It's something different. But yes, I'm aware of VFR and IFR. VFR is visual flight rules. So usually if you're one of the small Cessna planes, or if you're a crop duster, out in the country, you're flying by visual flight rules, which means that you're not really relying on your instruments for navigation. Whereas, yeah, so that's from my understanding, that's what you can do once you receive your private pilot license. But then, if you want to be able to fly at night or in low visibility, then you have to get an IFR rating, which is where you fly solely by instruments. So he's saying this because I made that comment about the tabernacle that said Salt Lake Airport this way, which I get it. I understand. I understand why they put that there, but I still just kind of find it interesting that the church allowed the tabernacle to be used for, people conducting VFR flights. But whatever, it makes sense. I get it. Thanks, Stuart Boyer. Okay, here we go. This is going to start to get into the meat of this video. This is from Paul McFarlane, SLP. It's called a Roman arch. Christianity was birthed out of the Roman Empire. Well, I wouldn't say, I know what you mean. I'm sure you didn't mean this, but I wouldn't say that Christianity came from the Roman Empire. It obviously came from Christ, obviously. In fact, it's been since the beginning, but Christianity definitely expanded by far because of the Roman Empire. So even though the Roman Empire was seen in Nebuchadnezzar's dream, you know, as the two legs, even though in many ways it was kind of a bad thing, it also was a good thing in a lot of ways. So it's interesting the role that this world empire that's part of these like different empires, starting from the Babylonian Empire to the Persian Medians to the Macedonians, which are Greek, and then down to Roman. It's interesting that it's part of that, you know, succession of superpowers, and just the role that they played in the Savior's life, and also on Christianity, because yeah, we have them to thank for helping to spread Christianity. There's going to be those that argue, oh no, that was a terrible thing, it was terrible, but it really was good, because it led a lot of people to Christ and got them familiar with Christ, even if they were living during what we call the Great Apostasy. They still became familiar with Christ, and who knows how many people in the spirit world have accepted the fullness of the gospel. So anyway, let's move on. President Nelson has announced the church's appropriation of the Roman arch motif as being emblematic of the borrowed tomb. Now, he didn't, we're going to read what he said right now. I don't necessarily think that it was meant to be an appropriation specifically of the Roman arch, because even though it's an arch, you can also think of it as like a generic shape, although he does say it's meant to represent the tomb. But so I don't know, but furthermore, the crucifixion was brought about through the instrumentality of the Roman authorities in concert with the Jewish elites. So the arch is a reasonable symbol of the background. I think I agree with that. Now, let's read what he said. So let's go back to April General Conference 2020. This is his talk called "Opening the Heavens for Help," where he introduces the new church symbol, which we're not supposed to call it a logo. A logo is usually, it brings thoughts of like corporations, companies, stuff like that. This is higher than that, so we refer to it as the church symbol. So he says, to help us remember him and to identify the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as the Lord's Church, he puts in italics, we are pleased to introduce a symbol that will signify the central place of Jesus Christ in his church. This symbol includes the name of the church contained within a cornerstone. Jesus Christ is the chief cornerstone. So this rectangle, it represents Christ, Christ being the chief cornerstone, and it contains the typography of the church name. Okay, the center of the symbol is a representation of Thorvaldsen's marble statue, the Christus. It portrays the resurrected, living, and it's interesting because that's in italics, living, to give you the sense. No, this is reality. He's not just an abstract idea. It portrays the resurrected, living Lord reaching out to embrace all who will come unto him. Symbolically, Jesus Christ is standing under an arch. The arch reminds us of the resurrected Savior emerging from the tomb on the third day following his crucifixion. Now, one of the main, kind of like the main place that's considered the tomb is right here, the garden tomb. And this is what it looks like right? So today, I don't know what it looked like at the time of Christ, but as you can see, this is all solid rock right here. So probably there hasn't been a time where this was an arch that looks like a Roman arch. Now, what Paul was saying back here is it's an interesting thought, having it be kind of like a symbol of the Romans, the Roman authorities, which that could be, but we're going to look into it a little bit more. That could be, but we're going to look into it more. So, yeah. So here's the garden tomb. Here's a different angle, so you can, you see this here. Okay, let's see. That's all that I highlighted. Okay, now I want to read, what is a Roman arch? What is it? What's the history to it? This is from study.com. Definition of Roman arches. Admit it, you take arches for granted. It's okay, we all do. After all, they're pretty much everywhere these days, from bridges to fast food logos. So what's so special about an arch? Actually, the arch is one of the single most important architectural discoveries in human history, and we have the Romans to thank for it. The Roman arch was the foundation of Rome's architectural mastery and massive expanse of building projects across the ancient world. It allowed the Romans to make bigger buildings, longer roads, and better aqueducts. The Roman arch is the ancestor of modern architecture. So, yeah, it really is kind of a big deal, isn't it? Basic construction of arches. An arch is an architectural form that controls the pressure from the weight of a building in a specific way. The arch directs pressure downwards and outwards, creating a strong passage underneath it that has the ability to support heavy structures. This is called compressive stress, because the pressure of the weight is compressed by the shape of the arch. Because the stress is directed both down and outwards, walls or other structures were often required to reinforce the arch. The arch allowed ancient builders to make larger, more complex buildings that could hold more space and people. The key feature of an arch is the keystone, and we've all of us are familiar with this concept, aren't we? Because it's been said that the Book of Mormon is the keystone of our religion. So the central feature of an arch is the keystone, or the wedge-shaped stone at the very top of the arch. It is the last stone placed during construction, and it locks all the other stones of the arch into position. The keystone bears almost no weight because it is the center of redirecting the weight of the structure down and outwards. The Romans used arches with circular tops called rounded arches, and those are the ones that we're primarily focused on as we're looking at these different buildings, temples and buildings and visitor centers and stuff like that. So, called rounded arches, which were made of stone. A series of rounded arches side by side is called an arcade. Oh, so that's where arcade comes from. I knew arcade meant something. It wasn't just like oh gosh. There goes the siren, everybody, sorry. What?
There's a fire.
Yeah, there's a fire. Okay, so this is what an arcade actually is. It's not a modern word. It's not a modern innovation of having a bunch of video games in a room. Having a bunch of video games in a room. Okay, so I pulled up this Wikipedia article, arcade architecture. And here's just a bunch of examples of arcades. The Colosseum itself, a big place, ironically, a big place of games, which I don't know if that's where they came up with that idea. I'll have to look that up sometime. Anyway, you see the arcade here going on around the exterior, or the walls of the Colosseum. Here's a mosque right here. Here's an arcade. This is in Cordoba. That's in Spain. That's pretty cool. These are arcades. Let's see. The women's cloister at the Ospedale degli Innocenti, 1420s and 30s. The topmost story has a colonnade, but not an arcade, as there are no arches. Okay, so yeah, see, there's only columns right there. So this is a colonnade, and this is an arcade. This is an arcade. Interesting. So basically, whenever I've been talking about these arches, what we're really talking about is arcades. Okay, and arcades incorporate Roman arches, right? So the series of Roman arches is called an arcade. Okay. So, history of Roman arches. The arch was first used in the Mediterranean world by those in Mesopotamia, Greece, Persia, and ancient Italy. So the Romans weren't the first ones to use arches, but while these cultures had the arch, they rarely used it except for underground tunnels and drainage systems, where the force of the earth around it provided natural buttressing or reinforcement. The Romans learned the arch from the Etruscans of Tuscany. Now, the Etruscans, they were kind of almost like a forerunner people before the Romans, or at that time, and then eventually got incorporated into the Roman Empire, as I understand. So it's interesting, the Romans learned it from them, from the Etruscans of Tuscany, and were the first people in the world to really figure out how to use it. Romans in the first centuries BC discovered how to use arches in the construction of bridges, aqueducts, and buildings. The Roman arch is largely responsible for the expansion of infrastructure across the Roman Empire. You may know about Rome's famous roads and aqueducts that crisscrossed from Britain to the Middle East. Without the arch, these constructions would probably not have been possible. The Roman arch became a foundational aspect of Western architecture and generated new systems of building across Europe. So Roman arches are important. They are important. And it's interesting, if you do... Okay, so this definitely, President Nelson said this represents Christ emerging out of the tomb. But because it's a symbol, right? Symbols have different layers. You can look at symbols different ways. Symbols can encode a lot of information. That's one of the practical uses of a symbol, is that you can encode information, and usually not so much encode, but symbols contain information that you can extract out of it. So one way of looking at this is looking at the surface explanation of what this is. And, you can take it at just that, but you do have to wonder if maybe, kind of like what Paul suggests, that they may have chosen this specific shape because they could have made it a rectangle. They could have made it a rectangle to look like this. This is a rectangle. This is not an arch. This is not a Roman arch. So I don't know. They may have made the conscious decision, just kind of like in the background, to make it look like this. Now, I've done videos about how this shape, the new symbol, the church symbol with the cornerstone piece, if you place that in the doorway, the front east-facing doorways of the Salt Lake Temple, it fits perfectly. It fits absolutely perfectly. So I tend to think that this might be the actual inspiration of the shape. Right, one of the layers of the shape. The top layer being the garden tomb, but then like a layer down, maybe referencing, like Paul said, Rome. It could also be referencing the Salt Lake Temple. The first time I actually found a connection to this was when I had some missionaries over, and one of them said that the new symbol matches up with the Temple Mount and the eastward-facing gate. This is called the Golden Gate. It's also called the Shushan Gate, which we were just talking about Purim recently, and I forgot. I was like, I don't know what Shushan Purim is, which I should have remembered because we already talked about it on the channel. Shushan refers to the Persian Empire. In fact, I think it was like the capital city, if I remember right. So when you're saying Purim, like if you're celebrating Purim as a Jew, they had Shushan Purim, and I think that was for those that are outside of Jerusalem. I believe. Just don't quote me, but it's like something to that effect. So anyway, this is also known as the Shushan Gate because it faces eastward, so it faces toward, Iran, Persia. But if you remove the cornerstone portion, and then you place this on top of the Golden Gate, one of the arches, then it fits perfectly. And you'll see that the original so you see like this door inside here, this smaller arch. This would have been ground level, or this would have been like where the floor was, not ground level, but where the floor was. That's where the new symbol stops. Okay, so it's like it perfectly fits within this large arch and where the floor would have been. Okay, so I found that interesting as well. And I went through, I compared it to a bunch of different ancient arches from all over the world, and it doesn't fit with many other arches. Like it specifically fits this one. So it's interesting that you have the Temple Mount with two eastward facing doors or entryways, and the new church symbol fits. It fits in both of them, the Salt Lake Temple and the eastern wall of the Temple Mount. So if you're interested in these videos that I've already done, because we have talked about this at length, and but I'll put these in the description below in case you want to go and watch these. Okay, so let's see. Was there anything else? I don't think so. Arcade. Okay, now, before we move on to more comments, I want to point this out. I wanted to bring this up, actually, in one of those early videos, but I forgot to point this out. And maybe this is why. Maybe it was meant to be, because this was supposed to actually be part of this video. Okay, this is an analysis of the new church symbol by a designer. Okay, and the stuff that he has to, like, his thoughts on this. This is by, let's see what the name is, Brian Collier, or since it seems to be a French name, I guess you would say Collier. Okay, the font or the typography. When I was studying graphic design at BYU, I had the privilege of learning from Adrian Pulfer. He helped direct the church's logo change that happened in 1995. Okay, and you might remember this used to be what it was, and this is still on a lot of church buildings, but then it changed over to this, where Jesus Christ was placed in the center and larger than the other text. Okay. And the change was necessary. The old logo did not translate well into other languages, and we are a worldwide church. The new logo fixed that. Well, it fixed that, and then this issue too, to make it even more clear that Christ is the center of our church. And then here you see the new. Now, in this case, they're talking about this as the logo, not symbol. But here you can see it in different languages, and Jesus Christ is the larger text in the middle. My professor Adrian shared the following with our class about the creation of that logo update. He told us that he proposed that the church commission a professional typographer to create a proprietary typeface, meaning a font that the church would own, right? They agreed, and they commissioned none other than Jonathan Hofler. If you don't know who he is, and I assume you don't, he is very well known for his font work. For example, he was commissioned by GQ to design their proprietary typeface, now released to the public under the name Gotham. You will find used in the Obama logo in campaign for 2008, the SNL logo, and of course the GQ logo. He was also commissioned by Martha Stewart to design a proprietary typeface for her magazine, now released for public purchase under the name Archer. Hoefler was hired and proposed a design which he called Deseret, based on his own research. With modifications to the font, it was released for public purchase under the name Requiem. Here's a little look into the inspiration for the Deseret typeface used in the new church logo. A lot of inspiration was from the Trajan typeface. Here's a comparison. Okay, so here's the Trajan one, and we're about to read about what that is. Here's the Trajan typeface. Okay, this is the inspiration, and then this is the Requiem. Also specifically this is the Requiem, but also I guess the Deseret typeface would look like this as well. Okay, so Trajan, what is it? The Trajan font was originally inspired by this column in Rome. This right here, this column. It is a quote. It is a triumphal column in Rome, Italy, that commemorates Roman Emperor Trajan's victory in the Dacian Wars. Quote from Wikipedia, smiley face. Here's a close-up of the text engraved at the base of the column. Look at the R. It's very similar to how you see in the church logo. Where is that? Oh, it's right here. Here's the R. Let's look at the church logo. Yep, that looks very similar. Okay. Isn't that fitting? The font that the official name of Jesus Christ is set in is derived from the Roman Empire that crucified him. Now look at that. Paul points out that the arch is seemingly a Roman arch, right? That's probably the only way that you can really describe it when you're talking about the actual shape. Okay, not the meaning of it that President Nelson gave, but if you were to just show that shape to somebody, you'd be like, "What is this?" Oh, well, this is a Roman arch. So you have a Roman arch, and then the font or the typeface, whatever you want to call it, is also derived from the Roman Empire. And so he continues, and it's no accident that the victory in war column. What? Okay, and it's no accident that the victory, capitalized, in war column it's derived from symbolizes the victory Christ has in the war against evil. Okay, so this right here, this column is where we get the typeface or font for the church logo, the wording of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints at the base of this column. That's fascinating. It's fascinating. So there's two Roman, well, I'm not going to say for sure, but at least one is definitely inspired by the Roman Empire, and then the other one, the arch, also seems to be inspired by the Roman Empire. Okay, which I think is fitting because think about this. You think about here. Let's go up here. You think about Daniel's dream. Okay, you think about the book of Daniel. You think about the book of Revelation. They are essentially sister books. They go together, and a lot of what they have to do with is these worldly kingdoms from the time of Babylon on down to where we're currently at. The kingdoms, the nations that have come from the Roman Empire, and we know that when Christ comes, he is going to he's going to end all of that, and the world will be his kingdom. Right? So, in a way, like how Paul said that, the church appropriated this from the Romans, well, Christ is going to take over the world. He's going to be the king of the world. All this that used to belong to the world, it's like saying Christ is now the new king. That's one way that you can look at it. You have Christ standing in this imagery that would have represented, Roman greatness, the Roman Empire, Roman power, Well, when Christ comes during the millennium, it's just going to be Christ. So I think that that's really cool. And I'm really glad that that Paul brought this up. Okay, now moving on to the Salt Lake Temple and the roof. Darren Baird says, didn't they remove the roof for repairs? Since it was a copper roof, wouldn't they replace with a copper roof? Copper is brownish but turns green over time. The reason the old roof was green is the patina copper that had formed. The drawing could be showing the new roof before a patina had formed. And after research, I agree with you. Now, this was all in my ignorance. I'm sorry, everybody. I guess there's not a big change to the Salt Lake Temple. Of course, we don't know for sure what that material is, but yes, I think almost certainly it is going to be copper and that it's going to form a patina again. So what are we talking about? Okay, we'll go back to that in just a second. So here's a picture. This is the picture from the Salt Lake Tribune. You have the brown top here. You also have it on these two northern buildings, just north of the temple. Okay, so I was like, oh wow, there's a new type of roof. It's a different color. Well, I didn't really realize or think about the fact that it was copper. And yeah, copper, it does change over time. Now I looked it up just to be sure, and yes, in fact, it is copper. In this, the churchnews.com article, it says, the copper roof sheathing has been removed and replaced with the temporary roof in preparation for additional steel trusses that are part of the seismic project. Okay, so it did in fact have a copper roof. And actually, I don't have it up anymore, but the tabernacle did too at one time, but it now has aluminum. Okay, so I looked up copper in architecture, and this is what I found, okay? Because I'm just going to be honest. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of that color of green. Think about the Statue of Liberty. That's why it's that color, and I'm about to show you. I don't like it. I don't. I wish that, personally, I wish that it would be this color. And this color only. Just nice, shiny. But I'm not sure if that's possible at all. I don't know enough about it. I know that there's a patina that forms, but I think there might be a way to stop patina. So let me just read. Okay, Copper has earned a respected place in the related fields of architecture, building construction, and interior design, from cathedrals to castles, and from homes to offices, and also temples. Copper is used for a variety of architectural elements, including roofs, flashings, gutters, downspouts, domes, spires, vaults, wall cladding, and building expansion joints. The history of copper in architecture can be linked to its durability, corrosion resistance, prestigious appearance, and ability to form complex shapes. For centuries, think about the Statue of Liberty. For centuries, craftsmen and designers utilized these attributes to build aesthetically pleasing and long-lasting building systems. So, copper for a temple, I guess it is a good choice, because all these different things that they're saying here, especially, what did it say? It's a prestigious appearance, for one. Copper's most famous trait is its display from a bright metallic color to iridescent brown to near black, and finally to a green verdigris patina. Architects describe the array of browns as russet, chocolate, plum, mahogany, and ebony. The metal's distinctive green patina has long been coveted. Really? Coveted? It's been coveted by architects and designers. Okay, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Here is Jurassic Museum of Asturias. That's in Spain. So, I guess maybe at one point, this is what the Salt Lake Temple, what its roof looked like, and what it will look like. when they put the new one on, but you can see that it's in the process of, I think patina, it's as a result of oxidation. So it's kind of like a, it's not rust, but it's like kind of like the same process that iron goes through when rust forms. So like with copper, it's patina. Okay, let's see. Corrosion resistance. Now see, this right here, this is kind of like maybe a symbolic reason why you would have this for a temple. Corrosion resistance. As an architectural metal, copper provides excellent corrosion resistance. Copper surfaces form tough oxide sulfate patina coatings that protect underlying copper surfaces and resist corrosion for a very long time. So yeah, there's some good symbolic imagery there, if nothing else. Unlike most other metals, copper does not suffer from underside corrosion that can cause premature failures in roofing. With a copper roof, supporting substrates and structures usually fail long before the copper on the roof. So that's kind of cool. That's cool. Durability and long life. Copper roofs are extremely durable in most environments. They have performed well for over 700 years, primarily because of the protective patina that forms on copper surfaces. So even if, the prophet or whoever's making the call for the Salt Lake Temple, even if they don't like me, the color of the patina, it's the patina that helps it be durable and last for a long time. Tests conducted on 18th century copper roofs in Europe showed that, in theory, they could last for 1,000 years. Well, I guess maybe that's another reason, you have the Salt Lake Temple, it's getting a new copper roof. It'll last for the millennium, won't it? Because of the patina. So, okay. All right. Wide range of finishes. It is sometimes desirable to chemically alter the surface of copper or copper alloys to create a different color. The most common colors produced are brown or statuary finishes for brass or bronze, and green or patina finishes for copper. Mechanical surface treatments, chemical coloring, and coatings are described elsewhere in this article at finishes. I think that's all I had for this article. Here's the, take a look at the Statue of Liberty again. So this is it's patina. It's all because of patina. Let's go back to the article. This looks really cool right here. I like this. I love it. That is pretty. I wish that's what it looked like on top of the Salt Lake Temple, but it's not my choice. Patina. Patina is a thin layer that variously forms on the surface of copper, brass, bronze, and similar metals. Tarnish produced by oxidation or other chemical processes, or certain stones and wooden furniture. Sheen produced by age, wear, and polishing, or any similar acquired change of a surface through age and exposure. So patina is not unique to copper. It is simply, it's like a finished state, a finished surface that's produced by age and wear and tear and polishing. So here again, you have different examples of patina. I like this. That is pretty cool. That looks nice. Okay, I wouldn't mind if it had this kind of patina. I don't know what this is, though. The same statue in 2015 after removal of patina. Oh, well, see, there you go. Looks better. Okay, but whatever. Okay. Now, I wanted to go back here. So, okay, were there any other? Thank you, Darren Baird, Paul McFarlane. There were a couple other things. Mrs. Chef Yoda. I thought this was interesting after doing a search about the meaning of arches. What does an arch symbolize in architecture? The arch can be construed as the vault of the sky. Various cultures link the arch to victory. Rome and France. Yeah, like think of exactly the Arc of Triumph. being two of the most prominent. Passing through an arch is the symbolic act of rebirth. In this case, resurrection, if that's how you want to think of it, with the church symbol representing the tomb, of leaving the old behind and entering the new. They often mark access into holy places. Thank you, Miss Chef Yoda. And then Richard Marble. I served a mission in the Joseph Smith building, 2015 to 2016, on the 6th floor. I could look out the window and see the top of the temple. I believe that roof was copper and green because it was copper. Does anyone know why Moroni was placed on the west spire of the new Leighton Temple? You know what? I didn't see that part of the comment. I was kind of rushing through everything. I want to look at that. LDS Leighton Temple. Let's take a look. Okay, you know what? I can't tell. We almost moved to Leighton in our early marriage. Yeah, look at that. Because I see mountains back here, and so this back here would be east, if I'm seeing that correctly. And so it's as though the temple is facing west, which is not typical, right? They usually face east. That's a video. Yeah, see, look, that's the mountain just right there. That's interesting. Oh, look, here's a Roman arch right there. It's a Roman arch. Okay, now I wanted to show you one last thing to kind of top this off. So here, this is the Rome, Italy Temple Visitor Center. And you have the Christus right here. You have the 12 apostles back here. And then behind the apostles, you have an arcade. Look at that. There's an arcade behind that. Of course, that's probably just simply because it's Rome, and they design temples and things like this to reflect the culture that they're in. But there could be more to it. It's just there are so many Roman arches in the church. There are so many, and then as far as arcades go, the arcades are just crazy when it comes to these potential future temples. The BYU Jerusalem Center and the Independence Visitor Center and the Brasilia Temple and so on and so forth. The arcades are just out of control. I don't think that is coincidence that they all have that. And if the Lord is inspiring that design, if he's inspiring, he wants his temples to have arcades to kind of call back to the Roman Empire, again, that kind of makes sense. It's like a symbol of him being the king, the emperor of the world, the true king of the world. Because, again, even though Rome did a lot of bad things, there was a lot of good that came out of it. And some of that was architecture. It's pretty. It's beautiful. Ancient Roman architecture looks good, so not everything is bad. And just having these associated thoughts with, Rome being from that period, a time of, the Greeks and the Romans being a time of like science and development and stuff before the Dark Ages, that's desirable to associate yourself with that stuff, right? So I don't know that. If you have any other thoughts on that, put that in the comments below. But that is my new theory going forward. I don't think that it's coincidental. I think it's intentional. It's just in too many places. It's too perfect, and it makes sense when you put it all together. But I could be wrong. Here is, I looked at the Rome temple itself, and I couldn't see any Roman arches on the temple. Okay, here's the map of where the Rome Italy temple is. It's in the northeast part of Rome on the outskirts. And then you have the Vatican down here. So Rome, in the Roman Empire, it played a big part not just in Christ's life, but also the church. It's an extremely important place. It's affected a lot of things. It's done both good and bad. And I don't know. I think that we can maybe understand these symbols and this imagery a little bit better if we look at it through this context. So, okay. That's all that I have for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your thoughts, additional information, anything that came to you as you were listening to this. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Make sure to share it with anyone that's interested in the church symbol, anyone that's interested in church architecture, anyone that's interested in the renovation of the Salt Lake Temple, all that stuff. And I'll talk to you guys later.